91.3 FM WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative. Brought to you by the student activity fee here at Buffalo State College. The views expressed on all the various All Talk Monday shows are not necessarily of those of WBNY, the United States government at Buffalo State College, or Buffalo State College itself. Due to the opinionated nature of these programs, listener discretion is highly advised.
Walking in the shot, he scores! Holy mackerel, roll the highlight film!
Buffalo's best hockey show every Monday night.
Scores! Jason Poppinville, shorthanded. Oh, now do you believe? Now do you believe?
Now, here are your hosts, Nick Lippa and Jack Sullivan.
These guys are good, scary good.
On Buffalo's original alternative, 91.3 FM, WBNY.
Good evening, everybody. You're listening to 91.3 FM WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative since 1982, and it's brought to you by the Buffalo State Student Activity Fee. It is neutral ice here at the 8 o'clock hour. Good evening, everybody, and what a day it was. Brayton Wilson here with you hosting today's show, and going to go through the studio here real quick. We'll start in Studio B. Joe DiBiase.
Great day. This is like my Christmas.
Frank Arcury.
This is definitely Christmas right here for all hockey fans.
Derek Kramer.
So much Christmas.
We've also got Chris Kowalchuk.
I'm off the playoff bandwagon, Connor McDavid.
Connor McDavid.
Oh, boo.
That's great. And then we have
Connor
a
Sager.
special guest in studio here, Studio A with me. It is a fellow writer that I write with on SabresHockeyCentral.com, Ryan Wolfe. Ryan, how you doing tonight?
I am ready for a nap.
Yes.
Been a long day.
Yeah, I hear you. Me and you were at the First Niagara Center very, very early this morning. What a day.
And I still have an hour and a half drive home. So
Yeah, so
long night ahead of me.
That's gross.
yes, understandable. So let's get right into it. And well, it really wasn't it was a wild day today, but not only that, but it was a wild week since the last time we talked on Monday. Tons and tons of trades going down. But let's start with the Buffalo Sabres and their acquisitions today. It started out with Brian Flynn this morning getting traded from Buffalo to the Montreal Canadiens. In exchange, Buffalo got a fifth round pick in the 2016 NHL draft. Then from there, we had a trade with who was next? Neuwirth. Michael Neuwirth was traded from the Buffalo Sabres to the New York Islanders. In exchange, the Islanders gave up Chad Johnson, who was a goaltender, their backup behind Yaroslav Halak, and a third-round pick in 2016. Then Buffalo traded once again with Montreal, giving up Torrey Mitchell, and they traded Torrey Mitchell to Montreal. In exchange, they got prospect
Jack Nivens.
And then they also got a seventh-round pick in return in 2016. And the final deal of the day, coming Chris Stewart to the Minnesota Wild. In exchange, they get a second-round pick in 2017. So let's start with Ryan here in Studio A. Ryan, what were your thoughts about how the Buffalo Sabres were able to pull out the deals today?
Well, from the get-go, when we first got to the arena, the Brian Flynn trade had just broken. And the interesting thing that stuck out to me was that we talked about it before, you and I, on our other podcast over at SabresHockeyCentral.com, that Tim Murray mentioned that somebody had called him recently and said, he didn't say if there was a guy who was available or someone called him for a guy in his roster, but the Brian Flynn trade kind of struck me as someone you didn't expect to go, but when he gets dealt, it kind of makes sense because if he's not part of the future,
absolutely,
get him out of the system now. Let someone else like Tim Schaller come up and play, get some time. and see if he can fit in the lineup for the next season. So the other thing that stuck out to me was the Chris Stewart trade. I was telling you all day on and off, it seems like I wonder if Murray went to all the teams and said, hey, what can you give me? And then went back a little later. And then finally we found out that's what happened, where he was trying to swing some deals that were bigger. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, when 3 o'clock struck, he only made the deal for the second-round pick. Kind of disappointing, but in the grand scheme of things, Chris Stewart probably will be a Sabre again, and then they'll have a decent prospect out of the deal.
Absolutely. All right, let's go to Studio B, and let's start with Joe. Joe, what do you think?
Just to carry over from the Stewart trade that Ryan was just talking about, that second-round pick that's in 2017, that seems to me like, they could very well use it, but that's more currency that you could use down the road if you're a team that's looking to make the playoffs. You can use that second-round pick for a guy at the deadline like a Chris Stewart to help you when you actually need him. So I like the Stewart trade, even though I think they could have got a little more. I was really hoping they could get Spooner from Boston, but didn't see a lot of that over the past few days. I feel like they could have got more for Torrey Mitchell. Just seeing like James Shepard, who to me is a little bit of a similar player, fills a similar role. They got a fourth for him. I think they could have done better than a seventh and a prospect that's not even. Navins doesn't seem that valuable to me. I think value-wise they could have done a little better, but I like that they got the guys out of here. Just cash in now. So all in all, they did decent to me.
Right, absolutely. All right, who's next in there? Who wants to go next?
I'll go.
All right.
I really, the most important thing that I think was done today was getting rid of Neuwirth, because it's just, you got to go full on tank mode here. You can't start winning these games now late in the season after you just worked so hard all season to be the worst team. So that's my 2 cents on that. I think that they got what I expected for Stewart. And then the other 2 trades to me were kind of irrelevant.
All right.
They just kind of cleared people.
Right, absolutely. All right, Derek, Frank, who wants to go?
Yeah, I agree. I think the Neuwirth one kind of had to happen in order for Buffalo to pretty much secure last in the NHL and secure at least either a McDavid or Eichel. Chris Stewart, the only thing that really surprised me was Chris Stewart going to Minnesota. That was the only thing. A lot of people were expecting he was going to go to Boston. Calgary was showing interest. I think Montreal showed some interest too. But going to Minnesota, that was kind of a little bit surprising. And then just another second-round pick you get. We've got Minnesota's second-round pick for like the last 4 years now. So, and then, it's like what was said, you could be flipped for another player, or they can use that if they want to.
Derek.
I had actually brought that up on the Buffalo Blitz earlier today, that, like just exactly as Joe said, it's one of those things where that second-round pick in 2017, you're expecting to be a contender at that point, or at least we think that's what the plan is, so you can get a guy that could be a trade deadline acquisition in favor of building your roster for a playoff run. Like everyone else said, I'm a little disappointed with the Torrey Mitchell trade. You could have got more with that. And honestly, I was a little surprised and caught off guard with Brian Flynn being shipped out. That was one of the players that, I expected the Sabres to keep on in their system. I think he's a fringe NHL, AHL player, but I was very surprised to see that Flynn was actually able to get flipped, who was undrafted, and you actually got value out of him. So that was a pretty good job there by the Sabres.
I agree. I was particularly happy with the return that the Sabres were able to get out of the Michael Neuwirth trade. I thought that was their best trade of the day. They were able to get Chad Johnson had a pretty decent year as the backup in Boston, and then he goes to New York. His stats aren't as great. However, he's been playing very, very well as a backup. So I was very happy with the return that we were able to get from him, and then a third-round pick in addition to that. That's just as good as what Buffalo was able to get out of the Enroth deal with Dallas, with getting Lynn back in a third-round pick. You get another third-round pick, and then you get Chad Johnson. So, and as Frank said, I think that it reinforces the proverbial tank here in Buffalo with enforcing last place as of right now. Because, again, there's still 19 games left in the season. We have no idea how things are going to turn out the rest of these 19 games, but it sure seems like right now that the Buffalo Sabres are doing a very good job of enforcing that tank.
Well, the one thing that I did notice that Tim Murray said when he spoke about Chad Johnson was he said that in Boston, he had very good analytical numbers. So they're looking more into just saying, well, this guy won a lot of games or had a very good save percentage. They look at it and say, you know what, he's having a tough year on the island, but maybe we can put him in as a backup goaltender, bring maybe Neuwirth back, or bring someone else in to be the goaltender next season. But to piggyback off what you said about the Neuwirth trade, I think the most important thing was they dealt a third-round pick to get him. They get a third-round pick back for him.
Absolutely.
And that's huge.
Absolutely, yeah. And guys, feel free to jump in. What do you think was the best deal? What was the worst deal? Give us your thoughts on what deal stood out to you the most.
Yeah, I really like the Chad Johnson deal. I mean, Neuwirth, they had to move on from him because, honestly, he was winning games for them almost. He was getting points for them by himself almost recently. So if you want to really go for this and make sure that you're going to be one of the bottom teams, then you got to ship him out. Chad Johnson, I mean, if you look at his career save percentage, is .914. That's what I like to go on more than just this year. I do agree he's just having a bad year, and I think it's a good job on Murray to maybe think, oh, his value's a little lower, so I can get him now. He's a better fit for the future. He can be a backup next year. Doesn't have to be relied on like Neuwirth would be. And he's only got a $1.6 million cap hit, so, I mean, Johnson just seems like a better fit to me, and then to get the third, I mean, that was the best trade in my opinion.
Yeah, and Chad Johnson, he's got 1.6 for up until next season too. So if this team, likely the team's gonna be bad next season, then you can flip him again and probably get another third-round pick back for him as well, and you're just adding more assets to this organization.
Not to mention, you're looking at a goalie who, overall he was a pretty decent backup goalie here, and now he's going to get the intense goaltending training from the Buffalo region here, where shots on shots on shots are going to probably inflate his save percentage to be able to be flipped next season if they were willing to do so.
And I wouldn't be shocked if he develops into the backup for years to come because, I mean, he did a good job in Boston. He's been in the league now in and out of the league for 3 or 4 years now. So, I mean, I don't think anyone would be stunned if he becomes the backup. So,
yeah,
I mean, you could trade him if you want to, though.
He was a formidable backup behind Tuukka Rask in Boston.
Yeah, he played 27 games last year, and he had 17 wins, the .925 save percentage. Those are good backup numbers.
Yeah, they could be using him as a 1B essentially for next season for whoever they bring in if they don't bring in an Antiniemi or they don't bring Neuwirth back.
I mean, even if you bring in Antiniemi or bring back Neuwirth, you're going to have a guy who can, because we've seen Neuwirth this season. He was great at times, but there's other times where he couldn't get out of his own way or he was hurt. And you have to have a formidable backup, someone who can step in for 4, 5, 6 games at a time if need be. Yep. And Johnson, I'm not going to sit here and say he's the next big thing, but clearly the organization believes there's a reason why he belongs in Buffalo, so they brought him in. And that's the one thing I continue to tell people, and Brayton can tell you this. Brayton can attest to it. I am on board with being bad to get better, but at some point in time, you need to start looking towards the future, and you can really tell kind of today when you deal guys like Torrey Mitchell and Chris Stewart. Yeah, these guys could be on the team in 4 or 5 years and be those veteran leaders you need. But getting rid of Mitchell and getting rid of Stewart allows you to bring guys in who may be here in the future. You already know what you have from Neuwirth. You already know what you have from Mitchell and Stewart. You bring guys up from Rochester, give them the rest of the season, and see what they can do. And it's just as the season goes on, the light at the end of the tunnel is getting closer. We can see the end of this. Things are going to get better. It's just you got to be patient and at some point in time, like I said, building towards the future. And I see this move as kind of a step towards the future in that.
Yeah, we also have to think about the fact that the Sabres may be interested in maintaining the rights of Matt Hackett, so he might be the guy to call up and possibly theorize here that Anders Lindback could be just straight up waived.
Well, I'm not sure what you guys saw today on Twitter, but like I said, Brayton and I were at the arena earlier. We saw the press conference from Tim Murray. He said he did make a few phone calls about goaltenders, and there are trades that you may not be able to make now, but you call back in June or July at the draft or around free agency, and you may be able to pry away a backup goaltender who's a kind of a 1A guy. And you look at a team like Chicago. You get a team that needs to deal a goaltender. They have 3 goaltenders at this point.
Or a team like LA with
exactly
Martin Jones.
With Martin Jones.
Yes.
That's another big name that you could see possibly to Buffalo. Teams like that where you lay the groundwork now. You call and say, what would you want for a Martin Jones or an Antti Ranta? What would it take? And they say, well, and you go, well, that's too high for me. I'll call you back. I'll keep that in mind. I'll call you back. And that's like when the Sabres traded for Evander Kane. It was a deal that was in the works for years. You just call every so often, you talk, and you go, what would it take? What would you like? How can we make this deal happen? And then, if the Sabres are to acquire a goaltender from L.A. or from Chicago or wherever in the offseason, you'll probably hear Tim Murray again say, it's a deal that was either talked about at the deadline or we discussed it in passing previously, because that's just how things work. But it's all a work in progress. That's kind of the overall mindset right now. They're not just losing to lose. They're working towards being something bigger, being something better.
Absolutely. I agree. Speaking of which, today, our feature of the day is the 2008 film Shutter Island.
I've never seen that movie.
I'm just kidding. I'm talking about the feature game of the day today.
Wait, on Twitter you said it was 50 Shades of Grey.
I don't know what I change it up every time. Anyway,
that's actually a good adjustment right there.
Our feature game of the day today is the New York Rangers against the Nashville Predators. Currently, right now, 11 minutes left in the second period. The Rangers have a 2-0 lead. And speaking of the Rangers, they made a big splash, and you want to talk about big.
Yeah. This is definitely my favorite trade of the deadline.
Yeah, it was big.
So here's the details about this trade that happened, yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yesterday late afternoon. The New York Rangers made a trade with the Arizona Coyotes, as the Arizona Coyotes were trying to match the Sabres in tanking. They traded Keith Yandel and also Chris Summers and a 2015 fourth-round pick to the New York Rangers. In exchange, the Rangers gave the Coyotes forward Anthony Duclair, defenseman John Moore, a 2016 first-round pick because the Rangers gave their 2015 first-rounder to the Tampa Bay Lightning, and also a 2015 second-round pick goes to the Coyotes. And what were the general reactions from everybody when they first heard this news?
I honestly hated it, but I'm a slave to loving these elite prospects, like I believe Anthony Duclair is. And I just see now that Arizona's got Domi and Duclair in the system. They're going to have a really high pick this year. A trio like that for the future really excites me. And I like Yandel a lot. I think he's a star defenseman. I don't think he's like a superstar by any means. He's going to fit right in as the top 4 on the Rangers. But I really think the Rangers paid a really high price to get him, and I think they may have went a little too far by throwing Duclair into it.
Yeah, this Arizona team, I honestly hated it like yesterday. And then this trade happened, and I saw that they got Duclair, and they could potentially have a guy like Eichel or McDavid on that team. And this team in a few years down the line, I mean, it's not going to be right away, but they've got a lot of young guys in their system that this team could be very fun to watch in a few years.
Yeah, Christian Dvorak too is in their system, so their entire prospect pool in general.
And Max Domi.
Right. I mentioned it before.
We can hope that if they have the second or first overall pick, they'll just take Mitch Marner instead of McDavid or Eichel.
But that's still not bad. That's still not a bad thing for them.
Well, if they're first and second, that is.
Well, they would never do that.
Yeah, that part, yes. But even if they do not get to the top 2, Mitch Marner, that's not a bad consolation with the 2 that they have in their system.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm just going to chime in over here because I'm indifferent to the trade. I know what Arizona's trying to do, and I know what the Rangers are trying to do. Rangers want to go back to the Cup final, and Arizona wants a top pick. Now, you think about it. Yes, you want to finish dead last, so you're guaranteed McDavid or Eichel. But here's the unfortunate news about it. You finish dead last, yes, you're guaranteed McDavid or Eichel. But more likely than not, you finish 30th, you're going to be guaranteed Jack Eichel because, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head, I think in like the 17 or 18 years that the draft lottery has happened, only 4 or 5 times has the worst team actually got the top pick. So
and the odds are lower now.
Yeah, we're at the point now of the season where, yes, I would love to finish dead last and just be guaranteed Eichel or McDavid, but you know what? How great would it be if Arizona goes all in on the tank and just loses out? Terrible hockey team, worse than they now are now. They finished 30th, Sabres finished 29th, and Sabres get Connor McDavid. That, I feel like, would be a total slap in the face because people say what the Sabres are doing is terrible. I understand that. I get that. From our point of view, we don't care. We want the Sabres to be bad. We want to get that good player. We want to get the rebuild sped up. But looking from, I don't know, someone... Say you're looking from your Phoenix's standpoint, for instance. They hate it because they think we're despicable and we're doing a terrible thing. But the Buffalo Sabres, they're doing what they need to do to rebuild. So Arizona decides, well, we're going to do it tenfold. And, I think it would be great if it kind of blew up in their face. And They ended up getting. I mean, you're not getting stuck with Jack Eichel because it's one heck of a consolation prize to get a phenomenal franchise player in Jack Eichel. But I know
that's where you head.
Everybody wants Connor McDavid.
That's why the difference between last and second last is so much, though. Because remember, last you only have a 20% chance at first, but you got a 100% chance of getting one of the top two.
Yep.
Which a lot of people think there's a big separation between Eichel and like the Hannafin, Strome, Marner group. If you're in second last, you've got what, a 33% chance of getting in the top two. So I mean, you're dropping 67% of your odds of getting one of those two elite guys. So that's why, to me, it's a big difference between getting last and second last. And remember, Arizona. The assistant GM, Darcy Regier, was the guy here who pretty much started this all. So I don't think there's any doubt in anyone's mind anymore that organization is kind of on board with maybe not we want to finish last, but we have no more interest in pursuing like being a really good team this year.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where you just said it. Darcy Regier is now going after this top two prize again. It's just with a different organization, and I that's one thing that that's one reason that I don't want Arizona to end up in that bottom two, ending up with either of those guys, because, everyone here in Buffalo, like Buffalo fans, they really do scorn Darcy Regier a lot. And, to see him beat out the guy that everyone seems to love in Tim Murray, who's open, he's flat, he's honest. People ask him a question, he's not dodging it like Regier was back in the day. He's saying what he wants to say. So he's become a fan favorite here, and Darcy Regier still, to many people this day in Buffalo, they think he's, just like that, like a snake when it comes to questions and comes to any sort of, answers to anything that people ask him.
Well, let's take a look at some of the other trades that the Anaheim Ducks made over this past week since we last talked. On, Thursday, they made the trade for Antoine Vermette. Thursday, Friday, I can't remember.
I know that the Coyotes.
Saturday. The Arizona Coyotes made a trade with the Chicago Blackhawks. The Blackhawks acquired Antoine Vermette, and in return, the Coyotes received defenseman Klaus Dahlbeck and a first-round pick this year, which gives the Coyotes 2 first-rounders out of, I think there's, 6-7 teams now that have 2 first-round picks this year?
I
think there's 6, yeah.
I think so. And Dahlbeck will go right into the Arizona lineup.
Absolutely, yep. He's already been recalled and everything like that. So continuing on here, the next trade, the Coyotes shipped Zdeněk Michalek to the St. Louis Blues and a conditional third-round pick. In return, they got Maxim Latunov, who is a Youngstown Phantoms player of the USHL. He's going to Boston University in the fall, and he is the third leading point scorer in the United States Hockey League. And then from there, they also acquired goaltender David Leggio, a Williamsville native. In return, they gave up Mark Louis back to the Islanders, and that was it. So they made 2 deals today, and then 3 over the past 2 days.
I'm not surprised, by the way, that they didn't trade Ekman Larsson, because I saw some people speculating that might happen, and I just never believed it for a second that they would.
Yeah, that would have been foolish to trade a guy like Ekman Larsson who you can build around.
Yeah,
that being said, it was all speculation.
It's very smart to be all in for for being bad, but if you want to be bad, if you want to be good in the future, don't trade Oliver Ekman Larsson.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Especially since he's so young. It's not like you're trading like a 29, 30-year-old guy that's really good right now. He's still going to develop, especially on the back end. He's already got amazing. Well,
yeah, I mean, if you were to trade a guy like him, you wouldn't get the value you would get for him now would not be worth what he'll ever become.
Right.
Absolutely. Let's go through some of the other trades here that we've got that went down today. Let's start with this trade right here. The Anaheim Ducks acquiring James Wisniewski from the Columbus Blue Jackets and a third-round pick this year for Rene Bourque, William Carlson, and a second-round pick this year. Anaheim, really, they bolstered their defense. They also acquired Simone Dupre from Pittsburgh in exchange for Ben Lovejoy, and they also acquired Corbinian Holzer from the Toronto Maple Leafs in exchange for Eric Brewer and a fifth-round pick in 2016. So, and the Ducks also made another deal. They shipped off. They made an AHL deal. They shipped off Matt Clark and got Michael Scarbosa from the Colorado Avalanche. So,
and this is following them trading Heatley for
Tomas Fleischmann.
Yes.
Yep.
Heatley and a pick.
So So with these trades that the Anaheim Ducks made, do you see them being a strong candidate in the West to contend for a Stanley Cup final this year over a team like LA or Chicago?
They definitely made their defense better by getting Wisniewski and Dupre. Dupre's like he's one of those tougher defensemen. I mean, but that trade was like really surprising in a lot of people's eyes. I like the fact that they brought Wisniewski back. Getting Fleischmann too really helps out their offense. And then they also got Yuri Sakash for Devontae Smith-Pelly, which adds a little more offensive fire touch to their already good offense as it is. Overall, like I said, it does make the team better. But compared to a team like Chicago with their defense and even a team like Nashville, it's not there yet, but they're still going to be good. I still see them probably at least going to they have a good chance of at least making the West Finals.
Yeah, if I'm Anaheim, I'm hoping and praying that LA misses the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because imagine if that happens and they play, say, the second Winnipeg in the first round. It's not that. I mean, Winnipeg's good. That's not a super tough matchup. The second you would have to play whoever the 2 and 3 are in the Pacific, which if LA doesn't make it, it's likely to be Vancouver and Calgary. You're not scared of either one of those two teams. So I feel like they would have a pretty easy path to the Western Conference Finals, especially because today I think Wisniewski is a good add. I like adding Dupre because I think they didn't have a lot of toughness on the back end. They have a lot of guys that have like some offensive ability, but they're not that physical. So I think that was a big move for them. Overall, I think they did pretty good. I don't know if I would say they're cup contenders, but I would not be surprised at all if they make the Western Conference Finals.
Ryan, what do you think?
I think they got a lot better. I know the Wisniewski trade was huge. It's going to be hard to compete with the Kings and the Blackhawks, but like was previously said, if the Kings miss the playoffs, you don't have to worry about the Kings. But
it's a dream scenario for them.
Very, very big dream scenario. But I feel like anything can happen in the playoffs. That doesn't even need to be said. But they certainly made a big step towards taking that next step to be as good as the Kings and the Blackhawks. But I'm not sure if they're there yet.
All right.
I mean, their defense still looks good. It still looks good though, because Vatanen's still on IR right now. But when he comes back, you have him, you have Cam Fowler, you got Hampus Lindholm, you add Wisniewski to that mix, and then you have Dupre and Boschman. Oh man.
2-1. Nashville just scored to make it 2-1. So sorry to interrupt you, Frank, but
no, that's all right. But
for Ryan, what you don't know is that whenever we have a goal in the future game, we decide to play a goal call, and that's a new one because everybody was caught off guard by it. But
there's nothing wrong with that. It's
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So
and a beautiful goal too.
Yes, Matt Cullen scoring for the Preds to make it 2-1.
The ageless wonder, Matt
yes.
Cullen.
All right, Frank. My apologies. Please continue.
I was gonna say their defense still looks good. Now you have Wisniewski. You have Vatanen when he comes back. Lindholm, Cam Fowler, Dupre and Boschman too. That makes that's a really good defense right there. But it doesn't really compare up to a team like Chicago, who's third in the Central, by the way, and I think they have a better chance of making the West Finals, or at least making the Stanley Cup, than Anaheim does.
All right, Ryan has a question here.
I'm interested. I want to know what you guys think because there was one trade that stuck out to me, not good or bad, but when you look at it and you go, that's really interesting. I think the Jágr trade to Florida is beyond interesting, but I want to hear what you guys. Everybody, go around the horn.
Let's start with our Devils fan.
What was the most intriguing trade of the deadline? Of not even the deadline, but kind of the whole past few weeks.
Well, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, first to answer your Jágr question, as a Devils fan, it was you could tell he was ready. You could tell he was ready to get out, given like the comments he was giving in the last week.
He's having run-ins with Adam Oates.
He was playing what, like 12 minutes a game?
Yeah. Something. Jordan Tutu was playing like 19 minutes a game. Jágr was playing like 12.
Well, that being said, Jordan Tutu is probably their fastest skater.
But Jágr,
that is to say,
Jágr didn't have a point in his last 8 games as a Devil, so I thought it was needed. I thought they got decent value for it.
I think they got really good value.
They got good
second
value.
and a third, conditional third, but
they
still.
definitely got good
So
value.
I was happy with it. As for the biggest trade of the deadline,
Most intriguing.
Yes. I think it's the Yandel trade for Drouin
You're having
and
too much fun with
and the
this.
first and the second. I mean, for Duclair.
Duclair.
I screw them up all the time.
Jonathan,
Because
Jonathan Drouin was traded today. I was about to be, where were the Sabres?
Because looking back on it, I feel like that Duclair deal is something the Rangers are probably going to look back on in 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
Kind of kick themselves and go, yeah.
But
what
unless they win the cup,
if it gets them a cup, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, if they win the cup, it kind of takes the sting away. But again, if Duclair becomes what everyone thinks Duclair is going to become, and playing with Max Domi, someone who's got a lot of experience with that, may become quite a head scratcher. It may become like that. What was that? I couldn't hear that.
That's not true.
It might be. You think of the Martin Erat, Phil Forsberg trade. Every time I see a trade, I get nervous.
Oh, God.
Trade. I was so mad. I just can't. I don't want to say it again. Every time.
I love that trade.
Where was Darcy on that one? Oh, we can talk about the Leafs?
Yes.
Yeah, let's talk about
Wait,
that.
wait. This is an easy transition
I wasn't
for me.
even. I wasn't even playing this because of the Leafs. I was playing this because of the Erat for Forsberg deal.
Okay.
But let's talk Leafs.
I was gonna say most intriguing trade was David Clarkson for Nathan Horton.
I would say the freeing of Ali Jokinen. The poor man, like I said last week, he needed a hug, but he got better than that. He got traded to a playoff contender in St. Louis. Good for him.
His 10th team in the league.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Wow. Ole Jokinen's tour of the NHL continues.
Yeah, I actually I
So is
forgot
Jagger's.
because of today. I forgot about the Clarkson and Horton deal. That was an interesting deal.
I cannot believe that trade happened, by the way.
Okay, here's my analysis of this trade. Because when I first saw this trade, I was thinking, oh, okay,
They got out of Clarkson's
This
contract.
makes it interesting because here's what happened: is because yes, to Joe's point, the Leafs got out of Clarkson's deal, which is what they wanted to do. However, they took on Horton's contract because Columbus didn't want to take on Horton's contract if he decided to retire because that's a cap recapture penalty, and that would be a huge blow to the salary cap of the Columbus Blue Jackets. So they figured, it works out for both ways because of the fact that Clarkson provides help for the Blue Jackets, and they desperately need depth for that team right now. And then the Leafs take on cap so they don't go under the cap floor eventually.
Well,
but
if I'm not mistaken, Columbus couldn't afford to pay Horton because Horton won't retire. Because as long as he doesn't retire, he gets paid.
Mm-hmm.
They can't afford to pay for Horton and for someone else to fill his spot, so they figured they would get Clarkson, and then they'd be paying a guy to play and fill that spot. But and the interesting thing about it is all that Toronto has to do is just pay Horton, because the cap recap or the cap. The
recapture penalty.
Not that. I'm not.
Whatever.
My words are getting mixed up. I'm tired. I need a nap. I think it's like $5.3 million or whatever they have of the cushion. Man. That doesn't kick in unless they're within $5.3 million of the cap. So the only thing it really does is takes Clarkson's contract out of the books, and they're paying a guy not to play hockey.
Mm-hmm. And they don't honestly. If they're starting over and like tearing everything down, trading Kessel and Phaneuf, if they end up doing that. I mean, they're not really going to have cap issues going forward, I don't think, if they're not going out and signing big free agents and trying to compete every year. Well, if they're going to start rebuilding, I don't think they can. They don't really care.
Looking at the Clarkson contract, seeing how Toronto works, that in a couple of years, I think there's 5 years left on the deal.
The contract was ridiculous.
They may need it. Both contracts were ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean, both players. You know what you're getting with Horton. Yeah, he's a talented player, but he's got back problems. And Clarkson, I don't ever understand in any right world why you would give that man that contract for that long.
Because he scored 30 goals the year before?
Once.
Because Leafs, that's why.
Once.
Because
it wasn't even when he was on the Leafs. It was the year before.
No, I know. He was with New Jersey, but that's why he got that money, because Leafs.
If you're looking at like the Devils with the Clarkson deal, they signed Ryan Clough to the same deal they would have signed Clarkson to. Ryan Clough may never play another game.
Yeah, it was goofy.
I said it on the Blitz. I compared the Leafs. I said that the Leafs are the Cleveland Browns of the NHL because they shoot themselves in the foot so often that's the drawing I'm getting to it. And Brayton, first off, can I say I appreciate having this music on every time we talk Leafs?
Oh, of course. This is like the Leafs theme song. When I'm not watching, it is. When I'm not watching Andre Mazzaros and Andre Benoit on the ice together, listening to this song, this is the Leafs theme. So,
hey, Mazzaros has been good lately. Give the man his due.
Little goal streak there.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what. The one thing that I almost drove my car off the road when I heard it today was when Paul Hamilton on WGR early this morning was trying to tell us that Mike Weber has been one of the best Sabres defensemen on the ice.
All right.
Someone get a needle to stop it.
Right. Two things. One, that wouldn't be saying much considering how bad their decor is. But two, it's no.
Bogus.
There's three things. There's three things in life you can always count on, my friends. It's death, taxes, and Mike Weber being bad at hockey. Always.
Completely agree with that.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, if you want to make an argument he's better than Tyson Strachan, you can do that if Paul Hamilton wants to, but that's not saying.
You could
really
even make
much
an
of
argument on his best day. He's average, but that's it on his best day.
I mean, maybe, you know what? When the Sabres have a good defensive core, he's a serviceable 7th or 6th defenseman.
Average.
Maybe. But
He'll be that guy you put in the lineup when you play the Bruins or a team like that. When you need a guy who will hit a lot,
physicality.
Yeah, and give you that extra grit. But
he's a liability.
Yeah,
you need to have a good defensive partner with him.
No, right now you do not.
Well, right now he's phenomenal.
yeah.
That's probably why he said he was the best player, because he's terrible.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's the perfect defenseman for this
He's the perfect defenseman to play 20 minutes.
Send all your hate on that one. Send all your hate on that one to Brayton, please.
So,
we need to make a song.
If we're going to continue with Sabres talk, I guess.
Why not?
Yeah. All right. So,
First off, that music fits.
Yes, it still fits. It still fits. We can transition from the Leafs to the Sabres and still have this music, and it'll fit just fine. So, with the Sabres, they didn't trade a defenseman today, which was, to many, probably surprising because of the fact that,
I think it was by design. You trade one of them, Mark Pysyk ends up back in that lineup.
But then again,
if Pysyk's healthy.
I was gonna say, I wonder if Pysyk not being healthy.
McCabe still also.
No, because I don't think McCabe is ready to come up full time yet. I think they still want a little more seasoning. I feel like if Pysyk was completely healthy, maybe they deal a defenseman because you can get value for anything. I mean, they got something for Torrey Mitchell today. I mean, that's saying something.
I gotta say, just sorry to cut you off,
You're
Ryan.
fine.
Jeremy White on WGR, as I was driving on in, he said something about. Someone brought up if there was a second-round pick being extended for Andre Benoit for some strange reason. He's like, I wouldn't take that deal. First off, yes, please.
Yeah. Okay, all right, I listened to that too. I mean, I think he was exaggerating, but he was trying to make the point that the reason the Sabres weren't trying to trade Strachan, Benoit, or Mazzaros was because if Pysyk's healthy, they don't really want Pysyk in the lineup because he improves the defensive core. So, I mean, that's basically speculation. I mean, I guess it could be true because, I mean, Pysyk's getting great minutes in Rochester, but I don't think there's any doubt that Mark Pysyk's an NHL defenseman right now.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I don't need to rush him along. McCabe, I agree. I don't think he's ready to be a full-time NHLer. That could change by next training camp.
But I would say he is better than those three.
I mean, it's hard to judge that, though, because he hasn't really played an extensive amount.
Right. Yes, and not only
he
that,
very well could be, though.
Not only that, but with a possible, with possibility of Mark Pysyk being out for the rest of the season, this puts Chad Ruedel with a higher possibility of being recalled within, if one of these players gets hurt. Because you look at the defensive depth right now for the Sabres. On the current roster, you got Andre Benoit, Zach Bogosian, Andre Mazzaros, Rasmus Ristolainen, Tyson Strachan, Mike Weber, and Nikita Zadorov with Josh Georges on season-ending IR.
So, yeah, the next call-up, I mean...
Next call-up,
McCabe or Ruedel.
It's probably going to be McCabe again.
Yeah.
Which, should be McCabe. And then it'll probably be Chad Ruedel again. But... You look at the defensive depth right now on this team. Rasmus Ristolainen, Nikita Zadorov, and Zach Bogosian may be the only 3 defensemen out of all these players that are here within the next, 2-3 years maybe?
Even next year possibly.
Maybe, yeah.
Because next year, Pysyk, I don't think there's any question. He's here next year. Pysyk's here next year. McCabe could be.
Josh Georges?
Josh Georges is on the team.
Yep.
So is that your 6 right there?
That's your 6.
That's your 6.
And
then your 7th is maybe... like a guy like Weber could be your 7th.
I think next year, and sorry to cut you off, I think next year it will probably be McCabe will start in Rochester.
He could come up
Weber will be in your top 6, but I think Weber will probably be that guy that ends up being that 6-7 guy.
That's also assuming they don't sign like a free agent too. But yeah, if they hold at what they have, I would agree that Weber would start as in the top 6, and then I mean it could happen, but McCabe would. Maybe at some point.
Right now, your top 4 defensemen are Bogosian, Georges, Ristolainen, and Zadorov going into next season. And then there's Pysyk, who right now, Pesic's. I mean,
I think Pezic could go right into.
There's
the
an
top four,
argument that
honestly.
Yeah, I
to
can
be
say
made that.
Pesek going top 4 is
Well,
not,
there's an argument that you could push Georges down to the third pairing, and you
Yeah.
could have Pesic in your top 2 pairings.
I kind of like Georges. If McCabe were to be here, I kind of like him with Georges too
Yeah.
as your third pairing because
That'd be
I like
great.
Georges is pretty steady. He's a veteran leader.
and
He can
McCabe
kind of
could bring
help
the
him bring him
offense.
along slow. Don't have to give him
Yeah.
a ton of minutes.
Exactly. And, it's a nice veteran presence to a young kid like McCabe where, he can create offense and have someone who is going to be a stay-at-home guy.
All right, well, you're listening to Neutral Ice right here on 91.3 FM WBNY. It's Buffalo's original alternative since 1982. Once again, around the room, we've got Joe DiBiase, Frank Arcuri, Derek Kramer, Chris Kowalchuk, myself, Brayton Wilson, and our special guest, Ryan Wolfe.
Hi.
Ryan is fellow writer with me on Sabres Hockey Central. You can follow him on Twitter at WolfSHC, and with the Wolf, it's with an E at the end of the last name.
Wolfie, yes.
Yes.
HC.
Absolutely.
That's
And you know what? We might as well at this point go around the room and just give our Twitter handles. For me, I'm BJ Wilson SHC. Joe
At DiBiase, it's capital D-I, capital B-I-A-S-E, 85.
Frank,
I am at Frank Arcuri. It's all one word. Arcuri is spelled A-R-C-U-R-Y.
Derek,
Derek Kramer 49. My name is spelled DEREK, KRAMER 49.
and then Aunt Larry,
I'm Chris K89, 2 Y's on K.
and then Nick Lippa's in Studio B as well, and he's on Twitter at Nicholas Lippa.
Whoa, I just got 11 followers.
Everybody should. I like to talk hockey. Follow me on Twitter.
Yeah. Wolf. Yeah, Ryan's a great follow on Twitter. He is the stats guru for the Buffalo Sabres. If you want to know any milestone stat coming up for the Buffalo Sabres, you can go on to SabresHockeyCentral.com, and you can look under the statistics tab right at the top menu of the website, and you can find a lot of statistics there.
I was gonna say,
Upcoming milestones are on there a lot.
Also, well, there's not many there now because the only
Yeah.
ones that are left are Tyler Ennis and Josh Georges. But
Yeah.
real quick, I want to point out too because I think Brayton is going to be on this week. Check out my podcast, Better Live Than Dead, over the Gear Network, gearnetwork.com or Spreaker.com/Gear Network. It's a great listen, and I'm not just saying that because I'm the host. It's awesome. Check it out. Like I said, Brayton will probably be there this week to talk hockey just because I can't seem to get away from him. So why not spend an entire day with him and then talk more hockey on the computer and just keep it going. Just have fun with it.
Absolutely. And then if anybody is out there listening and you'd like to give us a call, feel free to. 878-5104 is our number if you want to chime in on anything that we're talking about, whether it's trades, opinions on what the Sabres should do. Please, absolutely feel free to give us a call. 716-878-5104 is our number.
Just don't say that everyone should be fired and that Tim Murray should be fired if we don't finish 30th. That makes no sense.
I was
to
going
me.
to say, everybody call and tell me how good I look.
I'm sick. I want to throw up.
I'll tell you what. The one thing my father always used to tell me, he always said, "Son, you have the perfect face for radio."
I think we all have the perfect face for radio here.
Come on, everyone here.
No,
people
I'm
are
a TV
jealous
guy.
about our faces for radio.
No, I can make TV.
Okay, way to be selfish over there in the other studios.
Someone's
Joe,
got to
you're
be.
such a loser.
Come on, Joe. You got that face for TV.
It's called confidence.
All right. Well, let's continue on with our trade talks here. Let's recap some of the other trades that happened while we were away for the past week here. Let's start with the Montreal Canadiens. They traded forward Yuri Sakach to the Anaheim Ducks and acquired Devontae Smith-Pelly. The Minnesota Wild acquired from the Florida Panthers.
Wait, I think you just said that trade so you can play your Sean Bergenheim thing.
Also,
What are you talking about? That was a very impactful
and
trade.
Also, it didn't. Wasn't it? All right, go ahead.
So, the Wild acquired Sean Bergenheim from Florida. Florida got a third-round pick in what am I?
2016.
Yeah, third-round pick in 2016. Going from there, Yuri Tulusti went to the Jets from the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes got a couple of draft picks. Daniel Winnick went to the Pittsburgh Penguins. In exchange, the Leafs got Zach Sill and a couple of draft picks.
Including a second rounder.
Former Sabre Andre Sekera.
Continues the
It's
trend.
Sekera.
This was, it's whatever we want to call it. I still say Sekera.
Yeah, Sekera. I don't care.
Andrej Sekera is acquired by the LA Kings, and in exchange, the LA Kings give up Roland McCown from Kingston Frontenacs, a prospect defender, and also a first-round pick in 2015. This deal kind of struck me as, wow, the Kings really going for it with Andrej Sekera and almost giving it, giving too much, because they have been playing very, very inconsistently lately. They won, 8 in a row after the Stadium Series?
And
then they lost.
They've lost the last 3.
Yeah, they've lost the last 3. So the Kings might not be a playoff team, but yet they are giving up a first-round pick for Andrej Sekera.
I mean, that
of
could,
all players.
Yeah, because it wouldn't be a great lottery pick, but I mean,
But it
that
would be
pick
a
could
lottery
be in the
pick,
lottery.
Exactly.
My first reaction to this trade, though, was Sekera adds to the trend of the Los Angeles Kings adding former Sabre defensemen. So they now have Sekera, McBain, McNabb, and Robin Regeer. So pretty much their entire defensive core is like that. The Kings, they're so strange recently because of them being so hot and cold. I like this trade, though. I think the first was a little bit, they overpaid, though. Because, I mean, remember, a couple years ago, the Sabres traded Sekera for basically a second.
Right. Yeah, and then they got Jamie McBain in return, and we all know how that turned out.
Well, he turned out fantastic.
They could be on a pairing together now.
They could be on a pairing.
Oh,
That's the unfortunate. That's the
At least
unfortunate part.
Sekera's not Mike Weber.
That's actually very true.
I would trade Mike Weber for Sekera.
I would probably trade for Andrej Sekera back, but yeah, it's
Well, that's the one thing. Everybody in Buffalo was so mad when the Buffalo Sabres traded Andrej Sekera, and then the Buffalo Sabres drafted JT Compher, and all of a sudden everybody stopped being so mad.
Yeah.
JT Compher had a hat trick the other night.
I think
he's had 4 goals in I think his last 2 games.
By the way, I gotta say I didn't tell you this, Brayton, before the show, but after we ran into that guy today,
yes,
I am like mega hype to go draft Jack Eichel. Like, can the Sabres just draft Jack Eichel tomorrow?
Let's talk
We have
about
to lose
that
Arizona
right now.
those 2 games.
Let's talk about that right now. So we'll tell this story. I think we gave a brief overview of the story, but me and Ryan went to 716 Food and Sport after the trade deadline was over, after the Tim Murray press conference.
It's gonna freak me out, but Ryan and I. You can smack me afterwards. It's
Ryan and I.
The writer in me.
Ryan and I. Yes.
Wow.
It's completely understandable.
I added over at Sabres
you're a
Hockey
writer.
Central. Over at Sabres Hockey Central, I edit everything that goes on the web, so I'm used to editing stuff, especially Brayton's work. So it's natural.
Ooh, shots fired.
That's not true!
So anyways,
Brayton's armed with a soundboard.
Anyways, we went to 716, and me and Ryan were sitting at the one bar, and we ended up running into a scout from Boston University.
That is correct.
Terriers.
And
we didn't really run into him. I more or less was sitting there and was enjoying my chicken fingers.
And he just sat right next to you.
Well, he moved over because people sat down, so I kind of leaned back, and I noticed he had a Boston University shirt on. So I was talking to Brayton, and I got a little louder, and I mentioned Matt O'Connor, their goaltender, who is set to sign with the National Hockey League team here shortly, Buffalo being one of the rumored teams because Buffalo can allow him to automatically play in the National Hockey League, which is something he's interested in. And then all of a sudden I saw the guy shoot us a look, and I knew we were in. And then the guy started talking to us, and we asked about Jack Eichel and a little bit more about O'Connor, and apparently this guy knows a lot. He was telling us everything and kept saying, Jack Eichel's the man. By the time the conversation was over, I wanted to hit fast forward on the season like I was playing NHL 15 and just draft the kid, because I'll be very happy if the Buffalo Sabres end up with Jack Eichel.
He brought up an incredible stat today that I was just completely blown away by.
He was like a stat machine.
The 2009 season, the Boston Terriers won the NCAA tournament. They won the whole thing. They had Colin Wilson on the team, and they also had Nick Bonino on the team. At the end of the year, both players combined for 55 points and helped the team propel itself to the NCAA tournament and then end up winning it. Jack Eichel, just himself alone this season as a freshman, scored 55 points in 29 games this year.
Still have a bunch left,
which is astronomical.
He should win the
Hobie
I think
Baker?
it's
Hobie
undisputed. He is the front runner for the Hobie Baker. Anybody?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I like Ike.
yeah, I don't think there's
There's no one else.
yeah, there is no one else to win the Hobie Baker award. And the last rookie, can anybody get this? I know, Ryan, I'm going to exclude you from this. Does anybody know the last rookie to win the Hobie Baker Award in college?
I'm going to go with Paul Kariya.
Wow.
Right on the first guess.
Nailed
Paul
it.
Kariya.
I thought I had
named
heard
Black
that
Bears.
before. Thought I had heard that earlier.
Why would you admit that? Just let everyone think you guessed it.
Well, I mean, you got to find it out somewhere.
Yeah, someone has to tell you.
Would you? Okay, you guys seem very impressed. Would you go as far as to say you would draft him first?
No.
No.
Okay.
No.
Just want to make sure.
No,
Just
no,
want
no,
to
no.
make sure.
If the Buffalo Sabres have the first overall pick, it's Connor McDavid all the way. But if when the draft lottery, like last year, when the draft lottery rolls around and the Sabres go second, I wasn't mad getting Sam Reiner as a consolation prize. If Connor McDavid is the grand prize winner of being terrible in hockey, Jack Eichel is a not so bad consolation prize, and I would not be mad getting stuck with him for the next, I don't know, decade and a half.
I wouldn't call it being stuck.
I was going to say that you made it sound like it was such a horrible thing.
It is pretty bad. It is pretty bad.
This is my point to everyone. When
It's the
people
worst
talk
thing
about
this team could go through.
But if Connor McDavid didn't exist, people would be clamoring to draft first overall this year to get Jack Eichel. He would still be thought of as a mega prospect.
The one thing that was mentioned when we spoke to the to this gentleman at the bar was if Eichel was in last year's draft, he would have gone first over Ekblad and over Reinhart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other year, he'd be number one unanimously, but because Connor McDavid, the second coming of hockey Jesus, depending on who you ask.
Connor McJesus.
Exactly.
Connor McDevil.
Yeah.
No.
Next, Sidney Crosby, whatever. That's excellent. If it's all because of Connor, it's Connor McDavid's fault.
Yes, he had to go and have 100 points in 39.
Yeah, how dare he?
He's a show off.
A monster.
He would never. He never would fit in this market because all he does is show off, and Buffalo media would not like him.
Connor McDavid just holds on to the puck. I'll tell you this. When I went to watch Connor McDavid play at the Erie against wanted to see Erie play against Niagara here at the First Niagara Center.
The Meridian Center.
I was sitting.
Never mind. Go ahead.
No, here it's the first time.
Okay.
I was sitting.
All right, I'm being quiet.
I was sitting in the. I was sitting like 15 rows up from the ice. I had a guy literally right behind me, sit right behind me, and talked about McDavid the whole game. And this is what he said. And I wanted to turn around and I wanted to slap him so hard that it threw him all the way towards the season when McDavid was being drafted.
Wait, why didn't
This
you?
is what he said. Quote unquote. I do not want this kid already because he passes the puck too much.
Oh my
So
God!
why didn't
he
you
not
slap
see-
him into eternity?
Did he not see that one-on-one with the defenseman where he put it between his legs with one hand?
He said that after that play happened.
Then that man is ridiculous and needs to be checked medically.
Yes. So if
This is, ladies and gentlemen,
Maybe he was a troll.
Natural selection.
ladies and gentlemen of the
I hope so.
ladies and gentlemen of Radioland, this is why we cannot have nice things.
Because
Yeah.
no matter what, there are people that won't like it.
See, it's a little better here though, because I feel like we're not gonna hyper analyze him as much as if he went to a market like, say, Toronto, Ontario.
That is the one thing. That's the one thing that that was also pointed out in the conversation earlier. That O'Connor may be attracted to Buffalo because it's close to Toronto where he's from, and because we all know nobody wants to play in Toronto with that market. Because if they were good, if you're in any tough market, like if you look at baseball, New York and Boston, if you play there and they're good, it's not so bad. But once things turn bad, it gets ugly. In Toronto this year, once the Maple Leafs started getting bad, everything got ugly, and nobody wants to deal with that.
Remember, the
Toronto's
Leafs have
Toronto's
done
just
this
ugly.
like 3 or 4 times before it too.
They're just ugly.
The Leafs are just ugly. The Leafs are terrible.
This-
They're,
See, I
they're the
think-
Cleveland Browns of the NHL.
You can compare the McDavid to O'Connor in a sense where they're both from the Toronto area, and maybe they don't want to play in that big of a market. And Buffalo's right there; they got a new up and coming team, so it's like the perfect situation for them.
Yeah.
Like if I were Bobby Orr, who's Connor McDavid's agent, I mean Buffalo would be very high up on my list on teams I would want to win the lottery.
because of the fact that our prospect pool is so deep and that
and it's close to home. It's not a huge market, so he's not going to get hyper criticized for the media.
Exactly.
So and it's like what, an hour and a half away. Like it's perfect situation.
Just imagine the top 2 picks in the draft, whether it's us or if it's Arizona. Buffalo gets Connor McDavid or Jack Eichel, and the Coyotes get Connor McDavid or Jack Eichel.
Oh, really?
That would be quite interesting.
That's
2 technically smaller markets getting the 2 best players available in the draft. over teams like Toronto, over teams like Edmonton.
And especially Arizona is not only a
Makes me
small
very
market, they're a very
happy.
small hockey market too.
Right.
So I mean, see the thing I don't with McDavid going to Arizona is, I mean, it'll grow the team and the fan base almost for sure, I would say, but it's going to be slow growth. Where I feel like if he goes to a team like a big hockey market like Toronto, Buffalo, or who else is in it? There's a big hockey market, Edmonton. Then, I mean, that's like exponential growth, where it's just the whole market's gonna explode. Because I mean, everyone's going hockey crazy if you're a big hockey city and you got Connor McDavid.
Well, hey, whoever ends up in Arizona, it'll be cool to watch them move to either Seattle or to Quebec City in a couple of years.
I mean, to be fair though, like
Vegas.
it's one of those things. They could also, like one of those players could wind up helping Arizona get back to where they were when they were making the playoffs. They were filling that arena pretty well.
Only in the playoffs.
I think if
only
anything,
in the playoffs, and it was all road fans.
as they always say, winning cures all. If they win a lot, if they win more, if they get a more exciting hockey team, the fans will show up. Buffalo doesn't have that problem because fans in Buffalo,
they'll show up no matter what.
Exactly.
They won't be loud, but they'll
for
show
some
up.
reason we're still showing up. To
And you know
these
what?
games.
And I've been to enough games to attest to this in the press box. If Buffalo fans don't show up, they will go on StubHub and they will sell their tickets to somebody who will.
Yes.
Yep.
And most of the time,
Guilty.
it's the other team's fans.
Or me.
But the place is
or
full.
for some reason, me showing up to that 7-0 Wild game.
I will
That
say
was
this. I
Or
with,
me showing up to the 6-3 Vancouver win. How's that game?
well, I mean, success really does drive a fan base too. Because if you look, like, you can compare Florida and Tampa Bay. Like, why does Florida have such a bad hockey market? Because
They play in Miami.
Well,
because they play on an island.
That and they've made the playoffs once out of like the last 14 years. You look at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's
still-
not a huge hockey
they
market,
still
but they
play
make
in-
the playoffs almost every
Yeah,
year.
but they still play in Miami.
And they have Steven Stamkos.
Success-
It doesn't matter.
I'm not trying to be, but
Tampa
like,
Bay is not
Success
Look
breeds
at,
money.
look at the people who live in Miami.
look at people who live in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, it's
I
different.
feel
No, they're not hockey
It's a
fans,
different group of people,
but it doesn't
though.
matter. Neither
It's-
one's
But
a
it's a
hockey
different
fan.
group of people.
Florida's arena is next to a
You
mall.
can't say Florida or Miami is not doesn't get fans because of the group of people it is, and then say Tampa Bay is not.
Isn't the Panthers arena in like the Everglades or something?
It's
Sun-
right
Sunrise.
next to the
Yeah,
Everglades.
I think it's like
yeah.
it's next. It's
right
near
across
next
the
to-
street. Right across the street is the Everglades
Yeah.
National Park.
and it's like 30 minutes from
A
Miami.
mall. There's a mall there too.
It's
Sounds like
still
a
in
wonderful place
Miami.
to play hockey.
basically.
I'm trying to go down to Florida in June for the draft. I've been
Yeah,
researching
wanna
the
go
area, so I know. It's like literally right across the street. It's like the one highway. There's the BB&T Center, and right across the street, there's the Everglades.
And like they were
Cool.
saying in Studio B, there's a mall right next to it as well.
There's a mall there.
I can picture it now. Brayton and Connor McDavid. I can picture it now. Brayton and Connor McDavid making sandcastles at the beach.
It's adorable.
I'll be playing beach. I'll be playing beach. No, Derek. No, I'll
Beach
be playing
volleyball with Noah Hannafin.
No,
being
I'll be-
spiked down.
No, what I'll be doing is beach volleyball, and it'll
Having
be
some
the
drinks with Jack
it'll be
Eichel.
me and
coming
it'll
for you,
be
Buffalo.
it'll be me and Connor McDavid against Jack Eichel and
Lawson Krause because he's cheap.
and Lawson Krause, and it'll be the theme song from when Goose and Maverick were playing Iceman and Hollywood or whoever, Ice and from
We
Top
know.
Gun.
Yes, Top Gun.
Yes,
We'll get
You're my
there.
eyes,
We'll get there.
Goose.
Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely. You're listening to 91.3 FM WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative since 1982, brought to you by the Buffalo State Student Activity Fees. Recapping some of the other trades that we have yet to cover. Kimo Timonen goes to the Chicago Blackhawks from the Philadelphia Flyers. In return, the Flyers get a couple of draft picks. Tim Gleason goes to the Washington Capitals. In exchange, the Carolina Hurricanes get Jack Hillen and a fourth-round pick this year. Some other trades. Curtis Glencross goes from the Calgary Flames to the Capitals in exchange for a couple of draft picks this year. James Shepard goes from the Sharks to the New York Rangers for a fourth-round pick this year. Eric Cole goes from the Dallas Stars to the Detroit Red Wings, and in return, the Stars get a couple of prospects and a second-round pick this year. Lee Stempniak goes from New York in the Rangers to the Winnipeg Jets in return for Carl Klingberg. Brett Connolly goes to Boston from Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay gets 2 second-round picks, one this year, one next year. And then that was one trade that happened at 1:45 last night.
Yes, I was trying to go to sleep, and then Tampa starts making all these trades.
And then the second trade was Braden Coburn from the Flyers to the Lightning, and the Flyers get in return Radko Gudas, a first-round pick this year and a third-round pick this year.
We're talking
as
about
well.
overpaying here.
Ridiculous.
That's that was probably the most overpaying trade that I saw out of this entire trade.
I posed the question on Twitter: was Steve Yzerman drunk when he made this trade? Like,
I
could
think
not
a lot of
believe
people were
it.
thinking that.
Drunk.
Oh my gosh, I was
because you're giving up a good defensive, young caliber player in Gudas.
Yep.
He is big. He is physical.
Nasty.
He's nasty. Exactly. And you're giving that up for an injury-riddled Braden Coburn. Not only that, but you just throw a first-round pick this year and a third-round pick this year on top of that. That was just beyond astronomically overpaid, in my opinion.
Hey, Ron, what do you need for Braden Coburn?
The first made it so. Oh, I just could not believe it, honestly. Because Coburn, his potential is good, and what he reads as is really good, but he's inconsistent. And he's always hurt.
The best thing about those deals was that I think it was at Reporter Chris on Twitter broke and said, trades are happening, don't go to bed yet. And then someone said, well, are the Flyers involved? And he said, I wouldn't go to bed if I was you. And then the Brett Connolly deal comes across Twitter, and we're all like, we really sat up for that. And then like 2 minutes later, the Coburn deal breaks, and everyone just freaks out. And I was like, I'm going to bed. I don't have time for this.
Now, some other deals that happened early this morning. I think it was like 9 o'clock in the morning. Jeff Petrie gets dealt from the Oilers to the Canadiens.
Petrie dish.
Finally.
Yep, as Lipa would say, Jeff Petrie dish. Yeah. Lipa, do you have anything to say in there?
Uh-oh, here we go.
Studio B Lipa coming out now.
I just want to say I'm surprised Dion Phaneuf did not find his way to the New York Rangers to play with the wonderful and immaculate
Why did we get Studio B Lipa?
That's all I want to say. Dion Phaneuf, he's going to be the Hart Trophy winner 2 years from now. Mark it down.
I don't have first-round picks to get rid of him, guys. Come on.
That's good.
All right.
And he has left the room.
All right.
And he left. Okay, good.
right.
I don't have picks anymore.
He left on his own accord.
Yeah, I have all.
One more trade that I want to get to because we haven't heard from Chris. The Devils trade Marek Zidlicki to the Red Wings, and the Devils get a 2016 third-round pick. Chris, what do you have to say about that trade?
And in the process, ruined Dion Phaneuf's negotiations.
Yeah, I was happy about that. Zidlicki's time here was done. He really couldn't bring anything to the table at the end. He was good during the cup run on the power play, but I actually read an interesting stat about him today that in the NHL full strength, Zidlicki had the least amount of scoring chances against per 60 minutes. So that was kind of interesting considering what a horrible defenseman he is.
Well, they needed to make sure they can get back Bryce Salvador. So,
well, Bryce Salvador hasn't played since November. So,
all right.
Lucky for you.
Well, one other note before we decide to leave.
Was like that.
One other note before we decide to leave. Corey Conacher, local Canisius grad, he gets traded from the New York Islanders to the Vancouver Canucks.
Well,
so
we also
unfortunately,
got the other local connection, David
Leggio goes to the Coyotes, right? I think we mentioned that.
Yeah, and I believe
we didn't touch up on that much.
And Conacher will report right to the Utica Comets, so he'll kind of stay nearby his hometown.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, around the studio, go through everybody there.
I'm here.
I think so.
Everybody. Joe DiBiase, Frank Arcuri, Derek Kramer, Chris Kowalczyk,
Connor McDavid.
Connor McDavid.
Connor McDavid.
That's enough.
All right. And also Nick Lipa, who joined us very shortly. And once again, we'd like to thank Ryan Wolfe for joining us here. Ryan, thank you for coming in, and hopefully you can go home now and get some nice rest that's well needed.
That's false because I have to go work on SabresHockeyCentral.com. I want to say one more time, Twitter, at Wolf, SHCWOLFE, SabresHockeyCentral.com. Listen for SHC Extra podcast, myself and Brayton, and check out GearNetwork.com. The Better Live Than Dead podcast every single Saturday. Also, Brayton's going to be on that podcast this week, I do believe. I can't not get rid of the kid, and now I know how your friends here feel.
All right. Well, absolutely. All right. Well, Joe, do you want to say anything more?
Yeah, one real quick.
Okay.
Two for Sabres Hockey Central. I'm first in Pick'em right now. I want that jersey.
Which one?
Keep it up.
You get first place. First place gets an NHL jersey.
Oh, yeah.
I'm taking requests.
Yeah, Joe DiBiase's first place in Pick'em.
Got a 4-point lead, and I am keeping it.
Yes.
You got to talk to Kevin about that one.
Absolutely.
You
all
talk
right.
to Kevin about that.
Yes.
That's not my. That's
yeah,
not
that
my
is
stuff.
that is Kevin. So, all right. Well, Brayton Wilson here for everybody here at Neutralize. Thank you for tuning in tonight. We will be back next Monday, same time, 8 a.m. or 8 a.m. What? 8 p.m. We will be on the air right here on Buffalo's Original Alternative, 91.3 FM WBNY.
Adios.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's matchup between the Buffalo Sabres and the Edmonton Oilers. Starting in goal tonight for the Sabres is Jonas Enroth, as Michael Neuwirth is once again hurt for the Sabres. While for Edmonton, it'll be Victor Bost. I don't know how to say his name because there's an H after the T. However, there's an S before the T in his last name. Anyways, the puck has dropped and we are underway here. And right out the bat, the puck will be taken by Nugent Hopkins. And yes, Nugent Hopkins goes down to the ice. And I think he has hurt his shoulder. Now the puck is loose and Zemgus Girgensons is skating around on the ice like he's still skating in the All-Star Game competition. Not sure what that's about there. Here's Edmonton's Justin Schultz with the puck. His shot is wide. Nikita Zadorov has yet to show up at Sabres practice yet, and we believe Rasmus Ristolainen has joined him. Zadorov just tweeted a picture of both of them playing this game right now on NHL 15. Schultz gets the puck again, fires a shot wide. Now Jonas Enroth is skating behind his net to the Zamboni door entrance, and it looks like he's got to go to the bathroom. The door is open, and now he runs down the tunnel, and the Sabres net is wide open. Here's Justin Schultz again, in the slot. His shot, and it's wide. Derek Roy steps onto the ice now, and he skates over to the sideboards and is now flirting with a girl in the front row. She looks kind of cute. Stay away from him. You don't know what you're getting into. Drew Stafford's nowhere to be seen on the bench or on the ice, as usual. Is that Philly Leno on the bench? What is he doing here? Matt Hackett now steps onto the ice for the Sabres, and now he goes down to the ice, and he can't move. Matt Hackett can't move his knees. I think it's the cold temperatures. His knees just froze, and now he's sitting on the ice not knowing what to do. And they sent me here telling me that this game was going to be a good one. Anyways, here's Schultz again, and his shot goes wide. And now play is whistled down as Pat Coletta is chasing Jordan Eberle around with a broken stick. Oh dear. We'll be right back with more hockey in just a moment. 3:42 left to go here in the third period, and the score remains 0-0. What a game this has been so far, as both teams only have 4 shots combined in the game. In case you're just joining us, Patrick Coletta was ejected for a stick attack on Jordan Eberle in the first period. Luke Gazdic retaliated by biting off the ear of Torrey Mitchell. Andrei Makarov is in net for the Sabres after getting recalled halfway through this game. Nail Yakupov has decided to return back home to Russia. Tyler Myers left and apparently went to visit his cousin in the giraffe exhibit at the Edmonton Zoo. Jeff Petrie was traded midway through this game. Zemgus Girgensons is still skating in circles out there. Derek Roy is now up at the 300 level flirting with some other girl. And Victor, whatever his last name is taking a nap with Ben Scrivens in the penalty box. Oilers' net is empty, and Ville Leno has taken his first shift of the game for the Sabres. Here's Schultz with the puck again, and his shot goes wide. Taylor Hall has been in the locker room since the second period, watching the game on the TV in his locker stall. Jonas Enroth has yet to return to the game after going to the bathroom early in the first. Schultz again with the shot, and he fires it wide. And now Ville Leno has the puck. Leno skating into the Oilers zone. Leno, with the net empty, could win it for the Sabres. They're going to score. No. Leno passes the puck. The puck is trickling back to the Sabres' end. Makarov is too busy taking a selfie, and the puck is in. The Oilers have scored a goal. They're arguing that the goal should count as a goal for the Sabres, but they're not going to win that one. No, sir. The Oilers take the lead 1-0, and Edmonton's going to win the game. Wow. And now Buffalo has just bought out Ville Leno. Again. What a game.
What does it mean to be truly alternative? It means not being afraid to go outside the box.
Traveling in a world like creation, what we'll see will define explanation.
To play stuff you won't hear anywhere else.
Building the ground floor for what is heard.
Being the pulse of the music industry and local music scene.
DR,
Tom Connolly,
Andrew Catt,
Rich Cumpston,
Chris Duran,
and so many more.
I am 91.3 FM WBNY.
We are 91.3 FM WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative, Buffalo's best alternative, and we don't suck.